مساء الخير، اهلا لكل الناس اللي معانا النهارده على اللايف. احنا عارفين ان احنا بقالنا كتير قوي مش معاكم من وقت رمضان. بس كنا بنصيف كده. والنهارده احنا مبسوطين قوي ان انا وشاهين هنكون معاكم عشان ننظم مناقشه على عرض هاملت اور هاملت لثياتر ميتو، ومبسوطين قوي ان هم هيكونوا معانا النهارده لايف. المناقشه هتترجم، مش هتكون احسن ترجمه في الوجود، مش انيس عبيد يعني بس هنحاول ان هي تكون ترجمه لطيفه. هنسال الاسئله وهنسيب لهم وقت ان هم يردوا وهنترجم. So thank you all for joining. We are very pleased to have all those beautiful artistic souls from Theatre Mito to have this discussion panel about their performance of Hamlet Ur-Hamlet. So Shahinda and myself will be moderating the session and we'll be translating on the spot, not the perfect translation, but we will call it a translation. Okay, thank you so much. Now I'll leave it for Shahinda to introduce Theatre Mito.
Perfect. I'm so excited to have you guys here virtually, but it's like, I'm so excited. Okay, so I want to start with introducing the people that we have. We have Ram Kulin, founding artistic director of Theatre Mito, and we're having Michael Liddick, we're having Dennis, Aishan, and we're having Kayla, we're having Alex, we're having Isabella and Monica. We're waiting for Justin. He will be joining us very soon. Where do we start? Ruben. Yes.
Perfect. I'm happy to start. First of all, I have to start on a very important note, which is Theatre Me Too loves you all so much. We love you. We miss you. Every member of Shakespeare and every collaborator in Cairo, we send you so much love. So we'll begin with the important things. It's beautiful to see your face.
Yes. So we want to ask you to have like an introduction about Theatre Mito, what you do, your techniques. You have already performed before here in Cairo in the Festival of the Experimental Theatre for like 2 or 3 times. That's what I attended. I don't know about the later of that. So if you can give us a brief about the techniques and how it works, and then we go Hamlet or Hamlet.
Great. So I will only ask you, that will you stop me so that you can translate so I don't go for too long? So feel free to interrupt me, please. So again, I want to officially thank everybody at Shakespeare for the work and for setting this up. So as Shahinda said, my name is Ruben Polendo. I'm the founding artistic director of Theatre Mito. So Theatre Mito is of course, a theater company. So what does that mean? We are a Brooklyn-based theater company that is a permanent group of collaborators. We have been working together as a company for almost 22 years. We are, as a company, yeah.
We'll have to do that every time, okay? So أنا سألت روبان already وفي ترميتو عرضوا قبل كده في المهرجان التجريبي لمدة 3 سنين، فأنا سألته إن هو يدينا زي نبذه عن الشركه بتاعتهم بتتعامل ازاي والتكنيك بتاعهم بيبقى عامل ازاي. وهو بدا ان هم شركه موجوده او مؤسسه في بروكلين، وان هم بقى لهم مع بعض اكتر من سنه ان هم 20
من سنه 97
almost 20 سنه لو انا بعرف احسب صح ولا انا افتكرت صح. روبان هيكلمنا عن التكنيكس وعن الادوات اللي بيستخدموها ازاي في ان هم بيعملوا العروض بتاعتهم. Please go on.
We as a company, we are committed to pushing the boundaries of what we think theater is. So it's really about creating new ways of making theater and of presenting theater. I'll describe it there and then I'll go on.
ميتو دايما بتحاول ان هي تكسر كل الحدود المعتاده للعروض اللي احنا متعودين عليها بشكل تقليدي جدا، وبيحاولوا يعملوا ده عن طريق ان هم بيكتشفوا وبيبحثوا اكتر.
So for us, actually, this kind of interaction, including our performance of Hamlet or Hamlet for the festival, is very much in line with our mission, which is how do we perform theater in new and innovative ways? And so this exchange, even though it's technological, to us is very exciting because it's forcing us to view new ways of sharing the work.
ميزو كمان مش بس ان هم بيعملوا ده عن طريق ان هم بيبحثوا كمان، لا هم كمان بيعتمدوا على طريقه التفاعل ما بينهم وما بين الناس، ما بين ردود فعل الجمهور، especially في حاجه زي المكالمه اللي ما بيننا دلوقتي. هم شايفين ان دي حاجه مهمه، حاجه بيبصوا ليها للمسرح بطريقه مختلفه.
For us as a company, you ask about techniques that we use. For us as a company, one of the things that's important is to not simply stay locked within theater techniques for theater people. And so our methodology or our technique takes from every possible art form. We build bridges from visual art, from music, from technology, from dance, from film, from many forms, including, of course, theater. So our technique is an interdisciplinary approach towards this innovation.
طريقه ميتو مش بس معتمده على انهم يبقوا بيوجهوا الفن بتاعهم بطريقه معينه او بشكل معين، لا هم بيستخدموا كذا نوع من انواع الفن. بيستخدموا الفن البصري، بيستخدموا التكنولوجيا، بيستخدموا مزيكا، بيستخدموا كل الانواع اللي يقدروا يدمجوها كلها بشكل واحد مع بعض بحيث يطلعوا بشكل غير تقليدي اللي احنا واخدين عليه. هم دايما بيحاولوا يتوجهوا للتجربه، دايما بيحاولوا يجربوا اكتر من حاجه، مش بيعتمدوا ابدا بشكل تقليدي على المسرح.
There are two further important things when you consider Theater Me Too's methodology or techniques. One is, for us to develop innovative new ways of making theater, it's important to have a global outlook. In other words, to be in conversation and in collaboration with artists all over the world so that we may view the human experience from different perspectives, which is why the relationship with you all is so important and beautiful to us.
ميتو كمان مش بس، ميتو كمان عندهم زي عاملين مهمين جدا ان هم يستخدموهم في الطريقه بتاعتهم. اول واحده فيهم ان هم يعني
ان هم يجمعوا يعني رؤيتهم اكتر كانه يعني فن اكتر، بيبصوا للفن العالمي من كل حتت في الدنيا. ما هياش نظرة أحادية بس ولا بس يعني محصورة على بلد معينة ولا ثقافة معينة. هم بيحاولوا يدمجوا ثقافات مختلفة من بلاد مختلفة عشان في الآخر يطلعوا لنا شكل مختلف. وده حتى للناس الانترستد لما هنبص على رحلتهم هنلاقي ان هم يعني لفوا بلاد كتيره قوي، كان منها مصر وتشيلي وبالي وبلاد تانية كتيره، لان هو ده هدفهم في الاخر، تقديم الفن لكل حد قاعد في اي مكان بس يقدر ان هو يريليت ليه او يربط انه في حته شخصيه بتاعته هو في اللي هم بيقدموه.
The second thing, which is hugely important in the two things I mentioned, is the importance of every collaborator of Theater Me Too. Often in traditional theater, you have a director and you hire actors, and the director often tells them what to do and they do their acting. But for us, this kind of way of collaborating doesn't work. For us, we come together as a group of artists with an important question, and together we make the work. It doesn't matter whether you're an actor, a designer, a director, we make it together. When it is made, then we decide how it is performed. And that's when people take the roles of actor, of designer, director. But it's important for us that everybody come to the table as an equal, as an artist, and as an important voice to the process.
العامل التاني المهم بالنسبه لهم غير ان هم بيدوروا ان هم يكونوا ليهم علاقه بكل الثقافات هو المجموعه، شغل المجموعه كلها مع بعضها. مش مهم ان انت تكون عشان انت المخرج انت اللي بتقرر وانت اللي بتنفذ كل حاجه. هم بالنسبه لهم هم بيتجمعوا مجموعه واحده ويقرروا هيعملوا ايه مع بعض. مش معنى ان هو بتاع اضاءه او بتاع حركه او بتاع ايا كان يبقى هو ملوش راي. هم كلهم بيتجمعوا في الاول خالص عشان يتفقوا هم عايزين يعملوا ايه. فالموضوع مش ماشي بالهيراركي بتاعت انه لا ده مخرج ده يخليه في اللي هو بيعمله وده كل واحد في الحته بتاعته. لا، الموضوع عندهم كله شغل جماعي.
We have made many works over the years we've been together. We've been very fortunate to present two of them. You're correct, Shane. The two of them we have brought to Cairo. One was Death of a Salesman, which was an innovative look at this American play. And the other one was a documentary theater piece called Juarez. And of course now Hamlet.
هم اشتغلوا مع بعض على كذا عرض، منهم العرضين اللي اتعرضوا هنا في المهرجان التجريبي، اللي هو كان منهم واحد من المسرح الوثائقي اللي اتعرض السنه اللي قبل اللي فاتت، كان اسمه خواريز، وكان بيتكلم عن مدينه في المكسيك. و A Death of a Salesman اللي هو كان بيتكلم بطريقه او اخرى، او كان زي adaptation،
اقتباس،
كان اقتباس او كان زي تعديل للنص بتاع A Death of a Salesman. Sometimes you just lose the word in Arabic and you don't know how.
We agreed that this
the English is not the problem, the Arabic is a problem.
And we agreed that the transition would be full of I think maybe. So we agreed on this.
Perfect. And please slow me down if that's helpful. You know, Hamlet, of course, Hamlet is actually very much a perfect example of the kind of work we make. So if it's okay, I'm happy to talk about that a little bit.
Yes, please. دلوقتي روبان كان بيتكلم انه العرض اللي هو بيتعرض السنه دي على المهرجان التجريبي اللي هو كله بيبقى فيرتشوال على الويب سايت اونلاين كلنا بنتفرج عليه، هو هيتكلم دلوقتي على هاملت Ur-Hamlet. Yes, please go on, but please don't say all the details. Save it for the questions, please.
Yes, of course. I will only give you an example of Hamlet as a process for Theater Me Too. So this started, our processes last a long time. We develop projects over many years. So many years ago, we brought into the room what I'm going to call the idea of Hamlet, the play Hamlet. This is, of course, worldwide known and an important play.
الشغل بتاع ميتو ما بيبقاش الوقت بتاعه في التحضير قصير، بالعكس هم بياخدوا وقت طويل جدا. فهم بيجيبوا او يعني هم بداوا هاملت Ur-Hamlet. هو دلوقتي روبان هيتكلم عن العرض اتعمل ازاي. فهم جابوا هاملت Ur-Hamlet، جابوا هاملت از الفكره نفسها تبقى موجوده ما بينهم عشان يقعدوا يتكلموا عنها ويشوفوا هيحضروها ازاي.
The reason I say we bring the idea is because with Theater Me Too, we don't say, here's the play Hamlet, we're doing a show. We put the play in the middle and we say, what does this mean to us? What moves us? What makes us angry? What excites us? What do we agree and disagree on? And that's where our conversations begin. So the company's conversation is actually the most important thing, not the play Hamlet, but the conversation. And that's where the discussion and the argument begins.
So let me ask you before translating this, you mean that Hamlet was not the main intention for me to do? It was like the association behind it, and then Hamlet came as an idea, right?
That's right. So you want to put Hamlet in the center and say, what do you feel, think, associate with this? And we begin our conversation.
اوكي، روبان كان بيتكلم في فكره ان هم ما بيقولوش ان انا عندي مسرحيه هاملت انا عايز اعمل المسرحيه، هو عايز يعمل الفكره من ورا هاملت. ما بيدورش دايما انه انا عندي مسرحيه معينه لشكسبير او ايا كان فانا عايز اعمل المسرحيه دي. هم دايما بيتكلموا في حوار عن ايه اللي بيربط هاملت بينا احنا كبني ادمين. يعني هاملت بيمثل لي ايه، بيمثل لتقوى ايه، بيمثل لميتو ايه. كل واحد فيهم بيبتدي يعبر عن رايه ايه هو هاملت. فبعد كده بتيجي الفكره او بعد كده بيجي خلاص هنعمل هاملت على هذا الاساس. Please go on.
So then something really magical happens. Everybody is invited to bring themselves fully into the conversation. And then we disagree and we get into big arguments. And that's what's really exciting because from there begins the work.
الحاجه المهمه قوي جدا او اللي بتحصل ان هم بعد ما بيبتدوا كل واحد فيهم يعني يشوف هو منتمي ازاي لفكره هاملت، مش الشخصيه نفسها، ما بيتكلمش على الشخصيه، بيتكلم على الفكره من ورا هاملت. بيبتدي كل واحد فيهم يقول مرتبط ازاي بهاملت من وجهه نظر شخصيه. بيبتدوا كلهم يحطوا كل واحد رايه، بان يبتدوا يختلفوا لانه اكيد كل واحد فيهم جاي من خلفيه مختلفه تماما. من الاختلاف ده بيطلع الحاجه اللي هو روبان شايف ان هي حاجه سحريه، او هو شايف ان هو ده سر النجاح بتاع العرض بتاعه.
And this is really important to us because I feel very strongly that in the world at this moment, we are losing the art of coming into a room, disagreeing, and still moving forward respectfully. And so we are committed to coming in, disagreeing so much and so complicated that the only next thing we can do is make art. And that art reflects all of those opinions and thoughts instead of having to agree on one.
ربان شايف ان هي دي الحاجه المهمه جدا اللي بتميز العروض بتاعتهم، ان هم عندهم الثقافه بتاعت ان هم يقعدوا كلهم في اوضه واحده وما عندهمش مشكله ان هم يختلفوا في الاراء بتاعت بعضهم. بالعكس هم جايين وعارفين ان هم لازم هيجوا ولازم هيعترضوا ولازم كمان يبقوا متفقين على الاعتراض ده، وده اللي هيطلع العرض بتاعهم. العرض بتاعهم ما فيهوش وجهه نظر واحده، العرض بتاعهم فيه وجهه نظر كل الناس بتوع ميتو، ما فيهاش وجهه نظر روبان ولا مايكل ولا دينيس بس، فيها كل الناس اللي موجوده بارائهم كلهم.
And so then you have a group of company members who think Hamlet is a beautiful play. It's perfect, it's gorgeous, it's exciting. And there's another group, like myself and some other collaborators, who think it's terrible, we should burn it, we should get rid of it. Why do we still have it? And then there's some people in the middle who go, yes, no, right? Then we say, it reminds me of this boring movie I saw. And someone says, it reminds me of a beautiful poem. It reminds me of when I was a young child. Right? And we begin to associate. And we get so complicated that then we begin to make work. We begin to actually make things that reflect those opinions.
الاختلاف اللي ما بينهم كمان بيبتدي يخلي كل واحد فيهم يقول رأيه، ان في ناس كتير منهم لا اصلا مش بيحبوا هاملت، يعني روبان نفسه بيقول ان هو واحد منهم، في ناس تانية شايفه انه الله يلا نعمل هاملت، انا عجباني الفكره، فبيبتدوا الخناق او الارجيومنت اللي هو بيتكلم عليه انه بيحتد جدا لدرجه ان هم كل واحد لا يعني بيشوف هاملت او بيشوف الفكره فكرته بايه، فيبدا كل واحد فيهم لو مثلا هاملت فكروا بفيلم او هاملت فكروا باغنيه، من هنا بيبداوا ياخدوا الماتيريال اللي بيشتغلوا بيها بعد كده في المسرحيه، ودي بتبقى زي مرحله اوليه قبل ما نبدا بروفات او قبل ما نبدا اي حاجه خالص.
And so then this very, very cool thing happens, which everybody begins to make work by using what I call their superpowers. So, for example, Alex has a superpower of sound and composition and he begins to make. Aishan has a superpower of performance and writing and acting, and she begins to make. And we also have different generations. So Aishan and I are part of the founding members. So we've been with the company for 22 years. And then we have Isa, who's been with the company for only a few years. She's one of our newest members. So you have many ideas and generations.
كمان روبان بعد ما بيبداوا ان هم يجمعوا اختلافاتهم ويجمعوا كل واحد بيربط هاملت كفكره بالنسبه له بتبقى عامله ازاي او بتربطه بايه او بتحسسه بايه، كمان هم بيبداوا كل واحد فيهم اللي روبان بيسميها القوه الخارقه بتاعتهم او اللي هي الموهبه بتاعتهم، كل واحد بيبتدي يعبر عن ده بطريقته. أليكس هو كمان معروف بالديزاين، معروف ان هو بيصمم بالصوت، بيصمم تصميمات بالصوت والضوء. عايشان المفروض ان هي الموهبه بتاعتها ان هي التمثيل، عشان هي اللي عامله الدور الرئيسي في هاملت Ur-Hamlet، مش رئيسي هم كلهم بس انا بحس ان هي الليد. انا كنت مبسوطه قوي ان انا كنت شايفه عايشان هي الليد بتاعت هاملت Ur-Hamlet. فكل واحد فيهم الموهبه بتاعته بيترجمها او بيطلعها علشان يشوف هو شايف هاملت ازاي، الفكره بتاعته ازاي. كمان هم اجيال مختلفه، روبان وعايشان هم بقى لهم في الشركه 22 سنه، عندهم إيزابيلا بقى لها سنتين او بقى لها سنتين في الشركه، مع فكره ان الافكار مختلفه والاجيال مختلفه، مع فكره اعتراضاتهم، مع فكره ان كل واحد فيهم عنده موهبه مختلفه. ده اللي بيميز العروض بتاعت ميتو، فيها افكار ممكن انا ريليت في حته معينه او انا انتمي لحته معينه في العرض، الحته الثانيه لا، بس الحته الثانيه ممكن تقوى تنتمي ليها، ممكن حد تاني ما يحسش انه لا انا مش حتتي. دي الفكره اللي بيتكلم عليها روبان.
And as we make this work, guess what happens? We keep arguing about it and making more and arguing and making. And my job as a director becomes like someone in a gallery who is curating different photographs and different paintings to begin to give shape to a production. And so when you see Hamlet or Hamlet, what you are seeing is all of those agreements and disagreements, which hopefully give you a lot of windows and doors into the conversations we had.
زي ما كنا بنقول هم بعد ما بيوصلوا للمرحله دي ان كل واحد بيترجم انتماءاته او طريقته، هو شايف هاملت ازاي، بيبداوا تاني يقعدوا يعترضوا ويختلفوا ويتناقشوا ويفضلوا يعملوا الاختلافات دي لغايه لما في الاخر روبان از مخرج هو المفروض اللي بيدير الموضوع ده كأنه بيدير معرض، فهو بيحط كل صورة أو كل صوت أو كل تمثيل لكل واحد فيهم هو بيبتدي يرتبها بشكل كمخرج عشان تطلع في الآخر واحدة على بعضها.
And so when you see Hamlet, what you see in Hamlet, our production, is different points of entry. And our hope is that you as an audience get excited about some of them, get angry about some of them, get moved, because they reflect us as a company. And we are different bodies and imaginations and histories. And so instead of the piece having one idea, usually a play has one idea or a few, this has many. And so it invites everybody to enter the piece and experience it.
زي ما بيحصل في هاملت هاملت لكل اللي اتفرجوا عليها، هتلاقي ان في مشاهد انت حاسس انك متضايق منها، في مشاهد انت حاببها، في مشاهد انت مش فاهمها اصلا، في مشاهد انت مش عارف دي جت منين. ده مش علشان حاجه غير ان هم المشاهد دي بتمثل كل واحد فيهم في ميتو، بتمثل كل واحد شايف هاملت ازاي. كمان الفكره او ان انت يعني كمشاهد ان انت تنتمي لده او ان انت تشوف ده، دي كمان انت خلفيتك بتبقى مشابهه لخلفيات حد من الممثلين او من الناس اللي شاركت في العرض ده. العرض دايما او العروض دايما بتبقى ليها فكره واحده. العرض بتاع هاملت او عروض ميتو عامه هتلاقي ليها كذا فكره لان كلهم بيشاركوا ان هم يطلعوا العرض ده مع بعض.
The last thing I'll say is, therefore, when we make work, what we are doing is inviting our audience not just to watch, but to join us in the conversation and the argument, and to really think and feel what these conversations mean to them. And so being a Theater Me Too audience member is a very active role and not just sitting and watching.
كمان من العروض بتاعت ميتو الحاجه اللي بتميزها جدا ان انت كمشاهد مش هتدخل تقعد على كرسي وتستقبل العرض وتخرج. ميتو دايما بيهتم ان الجمهور يدخل يشارك معاه في الاحداث بتاعه العرض بتاعه، انك تبقى جزء من العرض، انك تدخل في المحادثه اللي هم عملوها مع بعض، انك تنتمي لحاجات وانك تعترض على حاجات زي ما هم عملوا، انك توافق معاهم وانك تختلف. فانت مش هتدخل تقعد على الكرسي وتسمع العرض بتاعك وتخرج تروح، هو مش هيعمل ده، مش هيديك العرض زي ما بيقولوا كده بمعلقه ذهب.
So often the role of an audience is almost like sitting with a puzzle. And a puzzle is not something you just watch. It's something that compels you to move and figure out, and you're thinking. So if you're watching a Theater Me Too piece, if you're watching Hamlet or Hamlet, you should be going, what does this mean? Why, what, right? It should be engaging you instead of just going, ha, 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 oh, how sad. The idea is you're in there, you're moving the pieces, because that's the work that interests us.
I'll tell you a story about what happened yesterday when I was watching, but let me translate first before I forget.
Okay.
روبان كان بيتكلم على فكره انه العروض بتاعتهم بتبقى عامله زي البازل، انت ما بتدخلش تتفرج وتخرج، انت بتاخد البازل وتحاول تحله، بتحاول ان انت تكتشف، بتبقى عايز تعرف هو بدأ من فين، انتهى منين، اجيب مين بدأ فين بالظبط. نفس الاحساس اللي هو انت مش عارف منين بيودي على فين بالظبط كده من الاخر. So I'm gonna tell you an incident last night. We agreed to watch the movie together, so all in our own house, and then we agreed to talk later. So I decided like, okay, I'm gonna watch this performance twice, once for me and once for moderating and taking notes and that stuff. And the video started with some credits, and then it has that 2 questions. The first question says, what do we do with all the Hamlets that we have? And then the answer is like, we dig them up, you know, the cycle of life, love, and death. And I said, okay, fine, that's what I want to do. And then the second question came and says, how do we make something that remembers everything? And I was like, okay, pause. I need to know how to do that before I look to the answer. And I said, okay, memory. And I said, yes, memory. That would be like something you can do. Memory can memorize everything. You can remember everything through memory. And I said, okay, that's what they're gonna say. And I said, I press play again, and the answer is like, by seeking the harmony of rebellion and the collisions of history. And I was like, why it's never so easy with these people? Why it's not memory? Why they never give us like something very easy like memory? And I said, okay, you know what? I'm gonna watch this twice. And the 2 times I'm gonna pause and stop and take notes, and pause and stop and take notes. Nothing for enjoyment.
It's hard work. It's hard work. Well, on that note, thank you for taking notes on that. But I'll pass it over to you for any questions you have for the company.
Yes, sure. انا كنت بس بقول لروبان على نفس الفكره اللي هو بيتكلم عليها. انا وطاقه امبارح اتفقنا ان احنا نتفرج على العرض، بعدين انا قررت ان انا اتفرج على العرض مرتين. المره الاولانيه هتفرج از مشاهد عادي جدا بيتفرج وبيستمتع، والمره الثانيه هاخد بقى نوتس ونقعد علشان احنا هنقابل الناس دي فنبقى جاهزين. فاول ما بتبدا بتتفرج على العرض بتلاقي ان هم في زي سؤالين كاتبين معناه ان احنا كل عروض هاملت اللي احنا شفناها دي المفروض بنعمل بيها ايه. فالرد كان ان احنا بنبتدي ان احنا ندور هاملت دول بيعرفونا ايه عن الحياه وعن الموت وعن كل الكلام اللطيف ده. كنت تمام متحمسه جدا، بدأت اقرا السؤال اللي بعده ازاي نعمل حاجه او ازاي نخترع حاجه او ازاي نلاقي حاجه بتفتكر كل حاجه. فانا وقفت فجاه عشان لازم طبعا ان انا انظر كده واحس ان انا جامده جدا وبعدين قررت ان ده لا اكيد 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 دي ذاكره. فحسيت بقى انه خلاص انا كده جامده يعني، انا عديت بقى انا كده عديت يعني. بعدين رجعت تاني اشتغل لقيتهم كاتبين اجابه معقده جدا يعني طب انتوا عايزين ايه؟ هو ليه الحاجه مش سهله يعني، ليه الموضوع مش سهل معاكم؟ طيب احنا let's read some comments before we start our Q&A from.
So I see Justin joining.
Yes.
Perfect.
Reem, one of our Shakespeare, saying break a leg, guys. Adham saying yes. And Marina saying hello, beautiful people. Adham, we love you all too. Marina, we love you. Miss you all there. And we have Bara, we have Muhammad Abdel Fattah is watching, Khalid is watching. We have some cool people. Ahmed Mu'taz is saying hello, beautiful people.
Franco
We have Franco from the Shakespeare Festival, of course. Say aloha, hello. And Adham is saying magic is in disagreement. They say art is not intended to make you comfortable, right? Yeah, very deep.
We have Hani Sharaf. Who else? Marina Galabi. I love this so much, and I see that this is very important point when we are creating art, which is basically like disagreeing. We have Ahmed Al-Dindi watching, and Wafa, Hind, Aya. Thank you all for watching. So I think we can start with the questions.
Okay. Should we start with the questions from the comments? Okay, we have basically 2 questions from the comment, and then we have some questions that we already have. Okay, so Adham, the questions for Aishan. Adham is asking Aishan, what is the biggest challenge you faces playing Hamlet?
That's it. First of all, we're so happy to be here and we love you so much and miss you. I just need to say that.
We're so happy that you're here. And actually I was like so excited seeing Aishan like for the first scene, she's leading and I say, yes, go woman. And then after that, they go all with the colors and I know they are all leading. And I was like, oh no, please, Ruban, don't do that. I love Aishan being the lead.
What was the biggest challenge? You know, so I think probably the biggest challenge for me was, so I really love this play and I act in sort of kind of traditional productions of Shakespeare and I always wanted to work on this play, not necessarily this character, but I think I faced my own sense of, I faced my own sense of, so Ruben knew he wanted me to do this character and I think it was an energy thing, right? So it didn't even have to do with gender or race or anything like that. It was just my energy to him, I think, if I would sort of say, he's nodding, okay. But I think I feel, because it's this sort of huge symbol in the theater of like, I'm finally gonna, and it's, but not for me, but for people around me, usually men, you know. So I almost felt like I didn't have a right to do it. So I think for me, the biggest challenge actually was a psychological one, to say, actually, what am I saying? Like, what's the thing that we've talked about at all the global Shakespeare festivals and that I teach my students? Like, your own humanity will illuminate something with this text that no one else will. And then on top of that, because just the way Oh, I'm talking for a long time. I should stop so you can translate. I'm sorry.
It's okay. We can memorize and paraphrase. ادهم كان بيسأل ايه اكبر تحدي يواجه عايشان وهي بتلعب دور هاملت، لان عايشان هي الست الوحيده اللي بتلعب دور هاملت. هي عايشان شايفه انه التحدي الاكبر ليها كان في فكره ان هي نفسها كانت شايفه ان هي مش هتقدر تعمل الدور ده، او هي ما تقدرش تعمل الدور ده، خصوصا ان هاملت حاجه عظيمه. لما بنقول هاملت فلازم يبقى هاملت، والناس اللي حواليها شايفين ان هاملت دي حاجه كبيره قوي. فهي بالنسبه لها كانت شايفه ان هي ملهاش الحق انها تعمل هاملت الست، او ملهاش الحق كشخصيه انها تعمل هاملت. روبان اختار عشان علشان الطاقه او الانرجي اللي عندها. التحدي الاكبر ليها كان التحدي السايكولوجي بتاعها هي كشخصيه. هي كانت شايفه انه انا ما استحقش، وبعد كده ابتدت تتكلم مع نفسها فكره انه، او اللي كانت بتقوله لنا في المهرجان بتاع شكسبير اللي كان بيتعمل تبع ميتو في جامعه نيويورك ابو ظبي. هي كانت دايما شايفه ان كل واحد فينا يقدر يلمع او يقدر يلمع الشخصيه بطريقته هو وبحياته هو وبتجاربه هو. Please go on.
The only thing I would say is, because of the way Ruben just described how we approached this text, so that ultimately I had to have the same trust in myself that Ruben already had in me. And then also because we were just as important as the text and our own experimentation and our own playing with it. And my favorite metaphor was Ruben would talk about like it was an archaeological site. Like the play was like this beautiful piece of pottery that had been smashed thousands of years ago. And we're digging through the sand and I find this little piece and go, oh, this image makes me think of, and I bring my own history and story to it and my emotional reaction in my writing. So I think because of our approach to it, I found my way in and felt like, okay, I have something to contribute. And it was an amazing way to experience this text, I'll say.
الطريقه اللي روبان كان بيتكلم عليها فهم ازاي حضروا العرض دي كانت من الحاجات اللي شجعت عايشان جدا ان هي تلاقي نفسها في العرض. طريقه ان هو كل واحد فيهم ازاي بينتمي لهاملت او ازاي شايف هاملت خلاها تجيب يعني، او خلاها ان هي تقدر انها تنتج او تقدر ان هي تبقى بتمثل بالشكل ده، ان هي بقت بتنتمي لهاملت بشكل معين. تاريخها، طريقتها، ثقافتها، كل ده ابتدى ان هو يبقى جزء من هاملت، ودي الثقه اللي هي اخذتها في نفسها اللي اوريدي كان روبان عنده الثقه دي فيها. Good. Okay. Let me go through the other one. Shuru is asking, what are the perks of watching this performance as a film? And do you think it's as powerful as watching it live? I will go to Justin.
So I think it's often a mistake to think that theater can be captured on film. When you film theater, it's a film. It's a different artistic product, and they're both really valid ways of having an experience. I think we're quite proud of what the film captures that the live performance can't capture. So for instance, the film, one of the reasons it's a 2-channel video installation, and you can see 2 different parts of the room, is an attempt to capture an experience that you can't have in person, which is that all these things are happening simultaneously in different places. And the live event is different because you can't be everywhere at once. And so there's an inherent tension in being in a space where 12 things are happening and you can't possibly get all of it. So I think they're just different experiences, both quite valid, but different.
شروق كانت بتسأل إذا كانت في مميزات إن إحنا نشوف العرض ده كفيديو، لأن هو دلوقتي بقى مصور زي ما إحنا شايفينه أوريدي على الويب سايت بتاع المهرجان. فجاستن شايف إن هي تجربة مختلفة تماماً، إن المسرح يبقى متصور وإن هو يتعرض كفيلم، هي تجربة مختلفة. أنت مش هتعرف تشوف كل التفاصيل اللي أنت كمشاهد بتقعد تتفرج عليها، especially في حاجة زي عرض زي ده. أنت محتاج إن أنت تتحرك كل شوية عشان تشوف كل التفاصيل من كل الجوانب. هو مش عرض واحد، أنت مش قاعد على كرسي، مش بتتفرج، مش بتستقبل قصة، مش بتستقبل أحداث. أنت محتاج تبذل مجهود كمشاهد عشان تشوف كل ده. الفيديو أو الفيلم كان فيه 2 فريمز، فأنت بتشوف على قد ما هم بيقدروا إن هم يوصلوا لك الفكرة كلها. بس هو شايف إن هي تجربة مختلفة، هي مش وحشة ومش حلوة، هي تجربة مختلفة. بس المسرح معمول علشان يتشاف مسرح حي، يتشاف على المسرح، يتشاف مكانه. Okay, do you want to start with our questions?
Yes, so we have a couple of questions here. So the first question is about the setting. we just want you to tell us more about the setting, like having the scenes happening in isolated, narrow rooms that felt sometimes like matchboxes or else in this abstract metal structure. Like, how did you choose the setting? Why? And most importantly, did it serve your purpose of breaking down the boundaries between classical adaptation and contemporary performance? So if you can answer, and then when I translate, I'll translate the question.
So if I may, I'm gonna throw folks in. So Dennis, will you take the first part of that about the architecture, and Mikey, will you take the second part about classical and contemporary and what the relationship is? Over to you, Dennis.
Yeah. So we initially started this wonderful argument, and the argument was whether we associated with the text of Hamlet or whether we actually wanted to disassociate ourselves from that text. So if we wanted to say we're actually going to push against the text and not sort of be true to it for a more classical understanding. And so what we decided was we would actually separate those things that we were sort of disassociating from the text and put them into little rooms. And we were very, very inspired by a gallery setting. So the idea that the audience would have agency over their path of the piece, we set it all in a big open space, and we created a kind of gallery which had separate spaces for those small little matchbox areas which you were talking about, and then a big central playing space for the sort of parts of the text that we wanted to really collide with Hamlet, and we really wanted to see what that was and associate it to Hamlet. So all of that stuff happened in the center, and then all of the stuff that we were sort of disassociating happened outside. And yes, Takwa, now you can translate.
طيب أنا كنت بسألهم على الديكور، لأن الديكور في بعض الأحيان كان بيكون في أوض صغيرة مقفولة بتديك الإحساس شوية إن هي كأنها علبة كبريت، أو إنه في أغلب الفيلم كان في التكوين اللي هو الحديد ده اللي في النص اللي هو شبه زي ستيج أو حاجة. فإن هم ليه اختاروا الديكور ده، وهل الديكور ده ساعدهم في واحدة من الأهداف بتاعتهم في إن هم يكسروا الحواجز ما بين الاقتباس الكلاسيكي والأداء المعاصر. فدانس كان بيرد إن هم كانوا بيحاولوا على قد ما يقدروا ما يلتزموش قوي بالنص، هم عايزين ياخدوا حاجات من النص. فكانوا فالفكرة اللي جات لهم إنه ياخدوا حاجات من النص، وبعد كده عجبتهم فكرة إن الحاجات تبقى متقدمة في شكل جاليري في أوض مختلفة. ففي بعض الأحيان كان في أجزاء من النص بتبقى متقدمة في أوض معزولة عن بعض، وبعدين الجزء بقى اللي هو فيه الجزء الدرامي أو السنتر المركز بتاع العرض نفسه كان بيكون في التكوين اللي هو من الحديد أو اللي هو شبه الستيج. So Dennis, you can continue.
Yes, I'll just add one more thing. So basically what that meant was that audience could come in and they could go to each room that they wanted to go to. And then we needed to find a way to call them all to that center space. So what we did was we invited Kayla Asbal's amazing band, the Other Men, to come and play these massive, awesome songs that would call everybody to that center space. So that was sort of the third part.
كمان دانس بيقول ان هم فكرتهم انه كان يبقى في فكره الجاليري اللي هو بغرف متعدده، انه كل ما حد من الجمهور يكون عايز يشوف جزء معين يقدر يروح للاوضه دي كانها بالظبط زي اوبن جاليري، يعني زي معرض مفتوح، وفي الاخر يقدروا يجمعوا الجمهور في سنتر معين او في مركز معين، وهو اللي كان فيه المزيكا روك بتتلعب، او كان فيه اللي هو التكوين الحديد ده. وهي دي كانت الفكره، انه انت تقدر تتنقل ما بين الاوض، وبعدين في حاجه في النص هي دي السنتر بتاع الدراما اللي انت بتجمع لك كل الموضوع بالخلفيه بتاعه المزيكا اللي كانت موجوده. So Dennis?
Yeah, so I'll pass it over to Mikey now, who can answer the second part.
So with classical and contemporary performance and those living together, our work is really about asking questions. It's not about presenting answers. So as Dennis said, it's really about the collision of those styles coming together in that moment. Can you put a video of Olivier, which is a very classical representation of Hamlet in performance, next to a punk rock band below it? Can you begin to collide someone dancing to NSYNC, which is a 90s pop band, next to Ophelia text? And can we begin to interrogate the way that we as practitioners approach this performance or approach this presentation of this work?
طيب هو مايك كان بيكمل على اللي قاله دانس، ان هم كانوا بيحاولوا ما يبقاش ان هم بيقدموا العرض ولا بيفرضوا على الناس اجابات، هم بيقدموا العرض بشكل انه يفتح للناس المساحه ان هم يبداوا يبقى عندهم اسئلتهم وتجاربهم هم. وبالنسبه لهم هم كانوا بيجربوا برضو انه ازاي يقدروا يبقوا عندهم مشهدين من عصور مختلفة، انه مشهد للكلام اللي كانت بتقوله أوفيليا مع انه حد على الجنب بيلعب مزيكا تبدو ان هي من العصر اللي احنا فيه وهكذا. فان هم كانوا بيحاولوا يجربوا ايه اللي هيحصل لما يبقى عندهم مشهدين من عصور مختلفة، بس في الاخر بيمسوا نفس النقطة. بس فهم مش بيقدموا لك اجابات، هم عايزينك اكتر ان انت تبدأ تفكر وتسأل انت. So Mike, you can continue.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Just want to say something.
Can I say one thing? It sort of ties together Dennis and Michael and Aishan's comments all at once, which is, to me, what's so exciting about the setting for this work is that it is about access. It's about access and agency within this kind of archaeological dig, right? I think what we discovered very quickly as an ensemble working together is that we all had different things in the play, in the original Shakespeare text, that were interesting to us. And we had different windows and doors into which we came into the process. And the setting, to be honest, is a very literal manifestation of those access points, and offering audience members the opportunity to say, you know, the thing that I'm drawn to in this text is the relationship between mother and son, or the thing I'm drawn to is betrayal. And there is a physical place in the room where you can go and access the work that way. And then all of those spaces begin to relate to each other. So you may find yourself coming in one window and out another door, metaphorically, if that carries through.
طيب هو جاستن كان بيكمل على كلام عيشان ومايك ودانس، انه الفكره من تعدد الاوض في الديكور، انه ساعدهم كمان على انه زي لما انت بتقرا النص وبيجي لك مشاعر مختلفه واحاسيس مختلفه وافكار مختلفه، هم حاولوا انه ده يبقى موجود في العرض نفسه، يبقى فاتح لك مجال ان انت تدخل من الاوضه دي على الاوضه دي، فتبدا تجرب الاحاسيس والخبرات دي المختلفه لحد ما في الاخر بتتجمع برضو في نفس المكان اللي هو السنتر بتاع الاحداث. فهو الديكور كان جزء من تخيلهم من الموضوع، انه تاني احنا بنحاول نفتح لك المجال ان انت تجرب الحاجات بنفسك وان انت تسال الاسئله انت بنفسك، فيبقى عندك تجربتك الشخصيه فتقدر تريليت او تربط نفسك بالنص.
I just want to yes. Comment on something that Danny was saying, or just asking a question about the audience mapping. How did it go? How do you lead the audience or let them go their way? How do they follow the instructions of 12 rooms and of seeing everything, like going through all the rooms that Justin were talking about, and at the same time seeing what's happening in the central area of when you collide with Hamlet? How did it go? How was the mapping going?
Kayla, you want to take that since you were such a big part of the center?
Sure. So it was basically with the gallery setup, people could walk around and you could spend as much time if you wanted to spend the whole section at one of those matchbox rooms because you were really drawn to it for whatever reason, whether it was the theme or how it was portrayed, you could stay there, or you could move from room to room. And there were 4 sections of that. So in between, the band, so I brought my band, and we were in the bottom of this structure in the middle. And basically it was a call to action. So all the performers would come out of their individual installations and come to the center, and it would lead the audience to the middle to have this sort of communal moment where it was a way for the audience to also make further associations between what the performance that was happening in the center and the more individual moments on the side. And it was sort of, the music was, it felt to me an expression of, one of the things I was so interested in Hamlet was the frustration and the betrayal and the angst and the loneliness. And that just felt like a really accessible kind of contemporary way to bridge those gaps. And it's just like this explosive energy of having all the performers running toward the center and climbing ladders into the top of this structure while a punk band is playing. It was just sort of an expression of that.
انا كنت بسال لان كان دانيس بيتكلم زي ما كانت طاقه بتقول عن ان ازاي الجمهور لما بيدخل هو بيبقى بيدخل في كل الاوض او كل الرومز اللي موجوده دي. فكنت بسال ازاي طريقه ان الجمهور او هم ازاي كانوا بيرشدوا الجمهور ان هم يدخلوا كل الاوض دي وفي نفس الوقت يقدروا يتفرجوا على اللي بيحصل في المكان اللي في النص او في السنتر، وفي نفس الوقت كان في روك باند اللي شغال. كايلا كانت بتتكلم في فكره انه الرومز او ان هم يبتدوا يحركوا الناس كان ليها زي تكنيك معين، فكره ان هم ربطوا الباند اللي هي كانت جزء منه ان ده الكول او ان ده الناس ان هي تيجي تتفرج على حاجه بتحصل في الجزء اللي في النص. هم عندهم الاوض الباقيه انت المسؤوليه عندك انت ان انت تتفرج على كل الاوض الثانيه، بس لما يكون في كول بتاعه الباند انت مطلوب منك انك تيجي تشوف ايه اللي بيحصل في النص. بالنسبه لكايلا هاملت بالنسبه لها او الجزء اللي هي ازاي عبرت عنه، هي كانت شايفه انه الباند او الاغاني دي جت من فكره ان هي كانت شايفه هاملت بالنسبه لها يعني كان بيعبر لها عن الخيانه، كان بيعبر لها عن الانتقام. كل الحاجات دي كانت باينه قوي في الاغاني او في المزيكا اللي اتلعبت من الباند نفسه. الجمهور بالطريقه دي كان عنده او كان عليه مسؤوليه ان هو يتفرج على كل حاجه، ودي الحاجه اللي دايما مش سهله، ان انت تبقى مطالب ان انت تبتدي بتجري او مش بتجري، تبقى عايز تشوف ايه اللي بيحصل في الرومز او في الاوض اللي جوه، وتربط ده كمان مع اللي بيحصل في السنتر او تربط ده بالاحداث اللي بتحصل كلها مع بعضها. Which would bring me to the question of
Can I stop you for a second, because there is like a very important and close to our hearts question from Dr. Dina.
I'll have to
Please.
stop.
Yeah, because she's saying hi, and she said that she misses you all, and she's so happy to be there, and she has like a lovely question like herself. So please go on and ask it, and it's to Robin.
Okay, Dana's question to Ruben is, the way I see it, the stalls represent different perspectives of the play. Which one of those interpretation is closer to your own?
That's a great question. You know, I'll tell you the one that's closest to, first of all, hello, Dina. I always think theater would not exist without Dina. I mean, so I just want to say that. So much love. And I'm very grateful that she has been a friend and a collaborator that helped us build a bridge between us and you all in Cairo. So thank you to Dina. Her question, for me, there's an installation, one of the rooms, and you see it in a couple of moments in the film. And it involves Justin, and he's tied by a harness, and he's trying to reach this. It's actually a comic book of Hamlet, and he's trying to reach it and flip the page, but the cord keeps pulling him back, and he tries, and in the process he falls and he gets hurt, and you see him again and again, and there's someone right behind him with a number, almost like it's a race, and with that number he's waiting for Justin to fail because he's next, right? That equation to me speaks of so much of the pressure and baggage around these classical works. Like Aishan said, this idea of, I don't deserve to play this. We should not be doing Hamlet. It's too high. It's too, and so we are set in this trap where we're almost in a constant state of failure, right? And someone behind us is saying, I can do Hamlet. I'm better at it, right? So for me, it's impossible to begin a conversation of Hamlet without all those ghosts. And what I wish is to take a big piece of scissors and cut that string so that the artist is free. And I think that's what the rest of the production is, which is, it is that energy, but we cut that damn string and finally can play inside of Hamlet, instead of this pressure of holding you back and saying, you did it wrong, you have to do it right, right? So to me, that's a very personal space for me. So you almost have to say, screw you, history of Hamlet. I'm gonna do what my heart tells me. Yeah, leave Hamlet alone, that's right.
دكتور دينا أمين، دكتورة الدراما، وهي الدكتورة بتاعتنا اللي عرفتنا على ميتو، وهي اللي كانت اوريدي في جامعة القاهرة. كنا طالعين المهرجان تبع جامعة القاهرة، مهرجان شكسبير في جامعة نيويورك أبو ظبي. دكتور دينا كانت بتسأل روبان عن هي شايفة إن المسرحية بتبين كذا وجهة نظر، أو بتبين أو فيها كذا، زي ما اتفقنا إن هي فيها كذا أوضة، كل أوضة بتبين وجهة نظر واحد من الممثلين هو شايف هاملت إزاي. دكتور دينا كانت بتسأل روبان أنهي الأقرب لقلب روبان في الانستوليشنز دي أو في التكوينات دي. اللي اتفرج على العرض، في تكوين فيه اللي هو جاستن بيبقى موجود فيه، بيبقى اوريدي مربوط زي بحبل او بليش، زي الهارنس بتاع سوري مش قصدي، بس زي الهارنس بالظبط بتاع الكلاب، وهو كل شويه بيحاول ان هو يبتدي ان هو يروح ياخد زي مجله، هي مجله المفروض ان هي مجله كوميك عن هاملت. جاستن كل شويه بيحاول انه يروح، الهارنس بيبتدي ان هو الحبل ده بيبتدي ان هو يرجعه غصب عنه لورا، ويبقى في واحد واقف في الجنب مستني عنده رقم ومستني ان جاستن يخلص علشان يبقى الدور عليه. روبان شايف ان التكوين ده من اهم التكوينات، لان هو شايف نفس الفكره اللي كانت عايشان بتتكلم عليها، فكره الاحساس بان احنا ما ينفعش نعمل هاملت، انه انا قليل، انه انا ما اقدرش اعمل هاملت. فشايف انه يعني ليه احنا ما نقدرش نعمل هاملت. هو كان كل اللي هو عايز يبينه فكره ان احنا اوكي انت مش هتعرف تعمل هاملت، يلا عشان اللي بعدك يجي، عشان مش هيعرف، ونبتدي كل واحد فينا شايف ان هاملت دي حاجه عظيمه قوي ما ينفعش تتمثل. هو كان عايز يكسر الفكره دي ده اقرب تكوين لروبان. What a great answer. That particular room represented the agonist of existence. It was the most tragic. Sorry, that was Dina. It was because we just had a conversation, me and Adham, before we started the call, and he was saying, what would your favorite? And I said, leave Hamlet alone. And then there's that moment when I found it very brutal, the installation of Justin, and I couldn't find a relation between what's happening actually, and I couldn't find a relation of Hamlet and what's going. Is it like something is driving him back from taking revenge, eating his psyche? I couldn't relate to any of that, and it was like very brutal to watch, and I didn't know why. And knowing Justin, I know you can just take the harness away and just leave, just be. So yes, it was very interesting moment. احنا كنا بنتكلم على ان التكوين ده من التكوينات اللي احنا كنا بنتكلم عليها احنا كشكسبير، ان ده من التكوينات اللي كانت انك تشوفها، او ان البصري بتاعها كان مش اكتر حاجه سهله. هي كانت انك تفضل حد مربوط وبيفضل وبيحاول يفك عشان يوصل لحاجه، دي كانت صعبه. انا شخصيا ما لقيتش اي حاجه، او ما لقيتش ان انا منتميه للحته دي باي طريقه، او ايه علاقتها بهاملت. فكنت بتكلم معاهم، فلما روبان دلوقتي وضح الفكره، او ان ليه التكوين ده عامل كده، دلوقتي الدنيا بقت اوضح. Okay, shall we go?
Yeah. So we have an interesting question here, at least for myself, because I'm so much curious to know why. Okay. So actually, the question is about the audio background, not only the music, like everything in the background that we hear. We felt that there's a significant sense of distortion in the doubled backgrounds and in the double tracks, like at least the beginning of the performance, you were having two tracks in parallel, to the extent that I felt, oh, am I playing two videos at the same time or what? So this a little bit, it confused me a little bit. And then I felt like this sense of intersecting sounds in the background is definitely meant, because it was consistent. And then at some point, I felt like, okay, so maybe how all the psycho-emotional status of Hamlet was being conveyed. Like at the end, I felt like I'm so much distorted. At some point I'm a little bit annoyed, and actually the background helped me a lot to reach this level, to the extent that I started to read about like the psychoanalysis of Hamlet, blah blah blah. So really the background and the double track and all the noise in the background together. So I just want to ask you, like, is it meant? And if yes, why? How? So
That's such a beautiful and thoughtful question. It really is such a thoughtful analysis. Alex, I'm going to pass it over to you, though Alex can talk a little bit about how the company creates sound, but Alex often takes the lead in the larger idea and balance of sound. So I'll pass it over to you, Alex, to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that is a wonderful question. Thank you. I think in the same way that we take source material from everything back from the original text to the Leave Britney Alone video, you know, we're talking about hundreds of years of time that has passed between these two pieces of source material, and then we smash them together, and we do the same thing with the technology and with the sound. And so I think that there is a lot of attention paid to offering up an audience member to opposing sounds at the same time, and then putting them right next to each other and asking the audience to create a relationship between them. And you know, you spoke of a growing sense of tension and distortion, and I think that throughout the company's performances and pieces, we do work a lot with pushing the audience's expectations in terms of an emotional response. So there are moments in the show where everything really calms down and it's just a piano and a single voice. And then there are other moments where it is the technology and the sound are propelling the actors physically up against the barriers of the performance. And it's about crafting that sort of movement between hyper action and moments of stillness. And it is in that breadth of experience that I think we find the emotional center of the piece.
طيب أنا كنت بسألهم على الخلفية الصوتية للعرض. إنه بشكل عام يعني لما بتتفرج على العرض بتحس إن في شوية من التشويش، وبعدين بيكون في كذا صوت شغالين مع بعض من العروض القديمة الهاملت ومن عرضهم، ومع شوية تحاليل وقراءات في النص في العرض، فبتحس شوية إن أنت بس مشوش، وبعد كده بتحس بشوية ضغط نفسي عليك، فبتبدأ تفكر هل ده عشان مثلا يعكس ايه كانت الحالة النفسية لهاملت. فكان أليكس بيرد إنه definitely إنه الخلفية الصوتية دي كانت معمولة بقصد ومعمولة بحساب وبشكل دقيق، إنه هم طول الوقت من خلال حتى عروضهم الثانية بيحاولوا طول الوقت إن هم يبقوا بيشدوا انتباه المتفرجين، ما يبقاش الموضوع ثابت تماما أو راكد تماما، يبقى الموضوع فيه حركة. فطول الوقت هم كانوا بيحاولوا إنه يبقى في واخدين جزء من العروض القديمة مع في نفس الوقت صوت بيلعب من العرض الجديد أو أسئلة منهم من العرض الجديد مع مزيكا كلهم مع بعض في نفس الوقت. بعد كده يكون في شيء من الركود شوية ونرجع تاني لنفس الطريقة اللي هي المبالغ فيها بتاعة تدخيل الأصوات مع بعض. وهو ده اللي هم كانوا عايزين يعملوه، أو دي واحدة من طرقهم اللي إزاي بنخلي المتفرجين يبقوا يعني مشاعرهم بتتغير وتجربتهم بتتغير من خلال العرض، ما يبقاش الموضوع ماشي على بنفس الرتابة يعني. So Alex, do you want to continue?
Once again, mentioning this idea of the sort of archaeological dig, playing with senses of age and time with the material and not trying to pretend like this isn't a film, a black and white film from the 1920s, not trying to pretend like this isn't a YouTube video, but allowing the range of quality and sort of audio quality and distortion, allowing those things to all live in the piece and be presented as they are, instead of, trying to clean it up or anything. So.
طيب أليكس كان بيكمل إنه كمان هم كانوا بالفعل قاصدين انه جوده الحاجه يبقى فيها شويه من التشويش ويبقى فيها شويه من التداخل مع بعض، لان ما كانش هدفهم ان هو في الاخر يبقى هي دي النسخه النظيفه بتاعه الحاجات اللي بنتفرج عليها على يوتيوب. مش هو ده الهدف ابدا. الهدف كان ان هم يدمجوا ما بين العصور وما بين النص القديم وما بين فهمهم ليه هو الجديد وما بين الحياه اللي احنا عايشينها. وفي الاخر ده عشان يطلع مش شرط ان هو يتنظف فيطلع بشكل يعني بيرفكت او شكل ما فيهوش غلطه، لا بالعكس، هو المفروض يطلع بشكل طبيعي، شكل فيه شيء من مش العشوائيه بس من التشويش اللي احنا حاسين بيه. فده بالفعل كان هم فعلا قاصدينه عشان كجزء من توصيل الرساله او فهمهم للنص.
If I can also add something, if that's okay.
Yeah.
There's this is my very strong opinion, which is oftentimes theater makers make the human experience seem very simple. In other words, they make it seem like one thought leads to another thought, leads to another thought. And maybe there are people whose brain works that way, but my brain and my heart don't work by one step. I have so many voices in my head right now and sounds. Right now, I'm thinking of our experience together in the Global Shakespeare. I'm thinking about visiting Cairo when we went the 2 times. I'm thinking about my mother. I'm thinking about my dog. I'm thinking about how much I love my company. I'm thinking about Shakespeare. All these things are happening at the same time. And so how do you present that on stage? I think our job as theater artists is to present the complication. As Shahinda said, it should be difficult to enter that theater space rather than simple. The idea of saying A leads to B, leads to C, leads to D, that's not my life. My life is full of all these complications. So when I enter that Hamlet or Hamlet space and I hear an old TV show, a music, I hear voice, I feel like I'm entering the heart and the mind of this play and of this company. And that's what's exciting to me.
طيب هو رباع كمان كان بيكمل انه كقناعته الشخصيه انه في ناس كتير بتحاول تقدم الفن بشكل بسيط، ممكن نقول عليه مسطح شويه، بان هو بياخدك من نقطه 1 لنقطه 2 فبيوصل لك الرساله واضحه وصريحه بشكل سهل، في حين انه احنا كبني ادمين مش هي دي حياتنا العاديه يعني. واحنا قاعدين دلوقتي بنتكلم مع بعض، رباع مثلا بيفكر في ان هو جه القاهره قبل كده مرتين، بيفكر في انه دي تاني ولا تالت مره نشتغل سوا، بيفكر في مامته في كلبه، في افكار كتير بتكون داخله في بعضها. فازاي انه احنا كبني ادمين افكارنا بتبقى متشابكه ومترابطه كده، وفجاه في الاعمال الفنيه تبقى مسطحه بشكل من 1 ل2 ل3 بمنتهى السهوله، انه ما فيهاش شيء من الواقعيه ولا شيء من انه ان هي داون تو ايرث. الحقيقه ايه؟ الحقيقه انه احنا كلنا افكارنا متشابكه ومترابطه. فهو ده كان بالنسبه له قريب جدا ليه ولقلبه، ان هو يبقى سامع جزء من مزيكا قديمه على حاجه من حته جديده. ده كان بالنسبه له يعني هو ده البرفكشن، لانه في الاخر ده احنا مش دماغنا مش متنظمه، دماغنا مش نظيفه النظافه اللي هي بتطلع في العروض. وده كانت اخر نقطه على السؤال بتاع الباك جراوند. So I'll leave it now.
I just have one question. Where were you, Ruban, during that performance? Where were you standing?
Yes, exactly.
Really?
We've been thinking of this a lot, by the way.
Like if you're directing and you want to like have an overview of all the performance, where were you? Definitely not like chasing audience, seeing what they're doing, like having
like physically.
Yes.
Where were you? Like
I was at the top. So the way I know the way I was watching everyone. The way the theater that we did the performance is set up, it has areas at the top where you can see down. So I would sit and I could see people moving, and I could see who was more interested in what. I could see what was happening. So it was like directing from an airplane. And because everybody is connected with in-ear pieces, I could speak on the microphone to them, and we worked with some great technical people. But I was watching it like a map from above, which is such a cool experience to see.
I think for the audience it would be a bit scary, right? Like having someone above. having all of that going around, there's something so scary about it.
But you know what? Sorry, I'll say one thing to that, which what was actually cool was to see the unexpected. For example, everybody is in the gallery, and then Kayla's band would begin to play music, and everybody would run, right? What's happening? And they would run to the music. Sometimes there was one person who would go, everyone's running to the music, I'm gonna go see what I want to see by myself. And they would have this private moment thinking, nobody knows I'm doing this. And I'm looking from above going, yes, I do. And then they would look and they would take their time. And I thought that was so special because, as Justin mentioned, the piece really invited you to have your journey. Just because we are saying, come listen to this band, it doesn't mean you have to. And so there were people who had these really intimate moments with the installations just by themselves. And somehow that spoke to them. They would just sit there and I thought, what are you looking at? I love that, right? And so to me, that speaks to the power of the production. And then I have one more thing to say, but I'll let you translate that.
كنت بسأل روبان هو كمخرج، هو بما ان هو اللي اخرج العرض، هو كان موجود فين كمخرج، يعني
واقف فين
بالظبط كمخرج دايما يعني. كمخرج دايما في العروض بتاعتنا العادي بيبقى فيه زي البوث اللي ورا اللي بنقعد فيه، او بيبقى قاعد وسط الجمهور، او بتبقى شايف العرض ده علشان ملوش مكان معين او هو مش ثابت. فكنت بسأله هو موجود فين، هو كان موجود في مكان فوق كل ده، فهو عنده رؤية لكل اللي بيحصل العرض كله عامل ازاي. كمان روبان بيتكلم فكره ان هو كان حابب انه يشوف الرؤيه كلها، او حابب انه يشوف العرض كله وشايف الناس وردود فعلها عامله ازاي من فوق. بيحكي عن موقف ان لما المزيكا بتشتغل دي زي بيبقى النداء للناس انه تعالوا شوفوا ايه اللي بيحصل في النص، فبيبقى في واحد كده بيتسحب وبيروح يشوف ايه اللي بيحصل في الاوضه اللي هناك علشان محدش شايف، فاكر ان محدش شايفه. فده بالنسبه له كانت حاجه مميزه جدا، ان هو يبقى عنده رؤيه واضحه، يعرف ايه اللي هيحصل وايه اللي مش متوقع وايه اللي هو مش متوقعه. كمان كان بيتكلم فكره انه ده بيدي المسؤوليه دايما للمشاهد في العروض بتاعت ميتو، ان هو يختار هو عايز يشوف ايه، هو يختار هيقف او هيجي لما المزيكا تشتغل ولا لا، هيروح يشوف حاجه تانية هو عايز يشوفها ولا لا، هو حاسس ايه اكتر. Yes please.
This is a story and it'll shed light on the production. After we opened the show many years ago, I was sitting in a restaurant with a friend, and my friend was holding their telephone. We're sitting in a restaurant and they said, your productions are so weird, right? They're so strange. And I looked at the restaurant and I saw a television that was playing the news. I saw a television that was playing MTV. I saw many people, some I could hear their stories. My friend was texting his wife and we were having a conversation about a production that happened yesterday. And I looked around and then the waiter came up and said, hey, what do you want to order? And then a man with this green tie, I always remember, passed by and my friend said, oh, that's an interesting green tie. All those things were happening at the same time. And I thought, our productions aren't weird. Life is weird. All those realities are happening at the same time. And so it goes back to this idea that we want to present in theater. Sometimes people like to present this simple version of life. And that to me seems weird. This seems much more in line with what the reality is. Truly, the fact that we were, yeah, and to me, it seems like we all know how to be in those rooms. Just think of, in fact, right now during the pandemic, we miss those rooms that are holding so many realities at the same time. And I can navigate a conversation with my friend while he's texting his wife, a person with a green tie, I'm ordering French fries, there's a television news report. This is our reality. And I always wonder why theater is not reflecting that reality always in a vibrant way. And that's what we're trying to do.
Yes. روبان كان بيحكي قصه ليها علاقه بالعرض، علشان لما كنا بنتكلم انه زي ما كتبقى كانت بتقول ان هو مش عرض تقليدي بينقلك من نقطه لنقطه، او هو مش بالبساطه دي. هو كان بيحكي ان هو كان بعد العرض كان خرج مع احد اصدقائه وهما كانوا قاعدين بيتكلموا، فبيقولوا العرض بتاعك غريب جدا. يعني اعتقد اغلب الناس اللي اتفرجت كمان احنا مننا في ناس كانت شايفه ان هو احنا مش فاهمين في حاجات كتير قوي بتحصل. فهو صاحبه بيقول له انه العرض بتاعك غريب جدا. فروبان ابتدى يبص حواليه لان كان في تلفزيون مشغل قناه معينه، في تلفزيون تاني وراهم مشغل مزيكا، وفي الويتر جاي بيسال عايزين تعملوا ايه، وفي واحد معدي فصاحبه كان بيكلمه، فصاحبه كان بيكلمه بيقول له الكرافات دي شكلها حلو. في كذا حاجه بتحصل في نفس الوقت، هو مش حدث واحد بيحصل احنا واقفين كلنا بنتفرج عليه بنتنقل ليه تاني. فروبان بص حواليه، بص له قال له هي الحياه كده، هي الحياه غريبه بالشكل ده، الحياه مش سهله، الحياه ما بتاخدكش من لحظه للثانيه، ما بتمشيش ان هو احنا مرتبين هنعمل ايه. هي دي طريقه العروض بتاعته، هو شايف ان هو بينقل ده في العروض دي بالطريقه دي وبالشكل ده. Okay, can we go for some comments? Because I believe we're only having like 5 minutes.
Yes, maybe one or two more.
Do you wanna maybe ask one more question? We still have like a lot.
I have a lot of questions.
Okay, we're gonna skip comments.
Can we like pick? You pick one and I pick the other one. Okay.
Yep. Go.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay. So, regardless of all the distortion, and sometimes I was a little bit like felt very tense, but there were some moments that I felt, oh, this is sweet, and I really liked it. Okay. Which is basically the mise en scène, which is, for example, the trampoline volare scene that had at the same time this scene that had Dennis and Aishan sitting on the trampoline with the volare in the background with like a retro scene at the same time. And there was another scene for Aishan when she was like describing her cold night in a very contemporary way, like she parked her car,
yes.
blah blah blah. And at the same time, she was imitating this old scene from the source, from one of the old sources. So the concept itself, like, can you tell me more about the concept of having the two scenes, of having this concept, and did it help you more in your in the message that I know that you don't want to convey like answers, but at least a message. So did this help you in this like smashing them together and those two scenes at the same time? I really liked it very much. So this concept, if someone can like tell us more.
Aishan, you want to talk a little bit about that? It's funny you mentioned the scene, because I think all of us on this video can do the bouncing that you're talking about, that they bounce around. Maybe Aishan, you can talk a little bit about that idea. And actually, if I may, Isa, I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about working with a physical score and what that's like, because I think that's a very particular practice that Me Too does that you're talking about, which is following something that's on a television. But Aishan, will you talk a little bit about those moments?
I'm sorry. So the physical, so in terms of that bouncing and the music, I mean, so here's the thing I'll say. Like, what I will say is not a definitive answer. This is how it resonates with me and how I remember it and what it means to me. So if I think about it now, it's Hamlet play acting. It's Hamlet pretending to be insane. It's Hamlet trying to throw everyone off the trail. And for me, when I respond to that, and I think, I mean, ultimately, I think when we made it, we found this footage, this choreography from a film, I could say from Delicatessen, is that right? And so I don't know who, it wasn't me. Was it Ruben or Dennis? Did you find it?
Ruben gave me the mimic, and then I just wanted to do it with you.
Right. So, and also it's like so personal too, because Dennis and I are always joking around. And so I think it was, and since we were doing the Hamlet and Ophelia, it was this like wonderful moment for a bit of joy and connections, like humor and spark in this sort of very, I think Kayla expressed it so beautifully, like how that music reflected this frustration and betrayal. So this moment of funness and connection and lightness and love, maybe you could imagine Hamlet and Ophelia in the past, you know, why they connected. So I can view it in many different ways. And I think that's actually the point. Like it's not easy to understand or make a simple answer. That's what I thought.
And you know, we work in this very specific way with these old films where we mimic them. We call it a physical score, but also we don't work with memorized lines. All the actors have these in-ears and they're receiving the language. And so I'm always interested to hear from newer members. Isa, this is her second year as a member of the company. She's been training with us for many years. And it's always a shock to all of a sudden have to work with these instead of just move freely and memorize your lines. And so Isa, will you talk a little bit about the shock or not shock of that experience?
Whoa, that's a lot. I think that's a lot, yes. So طيب أنا كنت بسألهم على المبدأ اللي اتكرر كتير قوي في العرض، إن هو مبدأ إنه يكون في مشهد من حاجة قديمة، من واحد من العروض القديمة لمشهد ليهم هم في العرض الحالي. كان في مثلا مشهد اللي هم اتنين قاعدين على ترامبولين وفي مزيكا في الخلفية ومزيكا لطيفة جدا لدين مارتن غالبا، مش دين مارتن، مش متأكدة. فكنت بسألهم إذا يعني كان إن ده اتكررت كذا مرة، واتكررت مثلا إن عايشان كانت كمان هي بتتكلم كواحدة في العهد في العصر اللي احنا فيه، بتتكلم على يومها العادي وازاي انه كانت الليله دي بارده ومش عارف ايه، وبعدين انه في نفس الوقت هم بيعرضوا من العروض القديمه لما برضو كان في البلاي بيتكلموا على الليله البارده بلا بلا بلا. فكنت بسالهم انه يعني كلمونا اكتر عن كونسبت انه يبقى في مشهدين في نفس الوقت ومش عارف ايه. فمثلا عشان كانت على المشهد بتاع ان هما اتنين قاعدين على الترامبولين او بتاع اللي بنط عليها دي، انه هي كانت حساها من وجهة نظرها هي انه بتخلينا نحس انه هو هاملت كان برضو كان عنده شيء من الجنون، وانه ممكن انه حتى في يعني وسط لحظات الجنون دي كان ممكن انه يبقى عنده اللحظة بتاعته هو وأوفيليا. تمام، انه لا ده في حته كده لطيفه، بعد كده بنرجع تاني لانه اصل الحاجات انه لا في صراعات كتير داخليه، في شويه جنان، بس انه كان حته كده انه ممكن تخليك تتخيل طب هو هاملت واوفيليا لما كانوا بيتقابلوا كان ايه يعني ايه الداينامكس اللي ما بينهم يعني. بعدين رباع قال ايه؟ رباع I actually forgot the part, if you can say it again.
Yes. So and sorry for the I got excited by what Aishan talked about. As Aishan spoke of those moments, I was highlighting that we work in a very different way with physical and text work. So we use these old movies as physical score, something to mimic, and we don't work with memorized. We use the in-ear. So I'm always interested to hear from new company members what that's like. So yeah, but I'll pass it to you for translation, and maybe Isa can talk about that.
طيب كمان كان رباع بيكمل انه هما مش بيشتغلوا بالطريقه التقليديه ان كل واحد عنده السطور بتاعته في النص بيحفظها وخلاص كده، انه لا، في جزء منه بيكون ارتجال وحوار، وفي جزء اكبر منه بيكون انه يكون في حاجه قديمه شغاله وهم يكونوا بيقلدوها بشفايفهم او بصوتهم يعني. وانه بالنسبه له ده جزء ممتع جدا، فهو عايز يكلمنا اكتر عنه. If you can continue.
So Isa, over to you.
I'll jump in. Yeah. So something that's very interesting about performing with Theater Me Too is that there is a component of using your body and your words in different ways. So the speech usually comes in through in-ears, and sometimes the body movements don't align necessarily with a scene or the story. And in the case of Hamlet, there's a lot of source material coming from videos, especially old movies, where we mimic the score. And so we'll be mimicking the movement of the piece to serve the scene in a new way, or look at an example of Ophelia and Hamlet talking that makes it like sheds light into something else. And there are moments when we are in the process of working through the pieces where we'll grab a source material like a video with movement, or sometimes I think Justin uses a little bit of Dr. Caligari. I think it was that in the Hamlet. and we'll grab like a piece of video and we'll pass it around. So I'll do some of the movement and then Dennis will do some of the movement, or let's say Aishan gets the text very quickly. So because Aishan already knows how to take the text from the ear, it just goes very quickly and we can experiment that way as well.
إيزابيلا كانت بتتكلم أو كانت بتكمل على اللي روبان وأيشان قالوه، كانت بتتكلم على فكرة التكنيك بتاع ميتو وإزاي بيستخدموا التكنولوجيا أو إزاي بيستخدموا الأدوات بتاعتهم، زي فكرة إن كل واحد فيهم بيبقى عنده زي الإيربيس بتاعته، بيبقى عنده حاجة في ودانه، هما بيتكلموش، هما بيسمعوا الكلام بيتقال وهما بيقولوه. أعتقد إن كمان بيبقى أصعب شوية من إن أنت تبقى حافظ اللاين بتاعك، أنت مضطر إن أنت كمان تلحق تتكلم مع الفيديو علشان يبقى مظبوط، علشان تقلده بالظبط. فهي بتتكلم ان التكنيكس بتاعتهم كتير مختلفه، او ان هي
وانه كمان انه جزء برضو من انه انت حاسس برضو بالتشويش، انه في كتير من الاحيان بيكون ان هي سمع حاجه وفي نفس الوقت حركه جسمها مختلفه تماما عن اللي هي سمعاه. فياخدنا تاني نفس مبدا الحاجات المتشابكه، الحاجات اللي داخله في بعضها، اللي في الاخر بتسيبك باحساس كده شويه انه في شويه تشويش. بس هم مينلي معتمدين على ان يكون في بيس،
خصوصا ان هم كلهم يعني بيسلموا لبعض الدور بالزبط. يعني الدور بيتسلم لكل واحد فيهم، يعني عشان مره جاستن، مره دينيس، مره كل واحد فيهم،
كل واحد وطريقته بقى
بياخد اوريدي، بس هو نفس الدور، هو نفس الكلام. More questions I want to ask, but we're really running out of time, so I'm gonna go quickly to the comments. Yep. Yeah, Dina's agreeing with that. Was scary, Ruban, to just stay over and having like an overview from the above. Dina's agreeing. She said it's so scary. And Jocelyn is saying, popping in for a few moments, so much love to my Shakespeare. Popping, okay, that's again. Can the production travel? I guess. Dina. Yes. Can the production travel? Because I believe we've been asking for it to be like participating in the festival, and I know how hard it is to bring all of that hyper technology here in Egypt and to travel with all of that. Is there any way we can do that, or to facilitate, or to make it travel easier?
Yes. I think something with us as a company is that we are committed to traveling our work all over the world. And so we have developed really, really strong skills where the production can take different shape depending on where we are. If you told me, oh, we don't have a theater that big, but we have 2 rooms in a building, then we can try to give shape to that. It looks different, it feels different, but the heart is the same. If you tell me we only have 2 TV screens and not 14, then we continue to give shape. That's what's exciting, because we in this room and our company members that aren't here, we're the makers of it. So we keep it alive and keep making it. So we look forward to bringing it to Cairo in person at some point soon.
Just to no more excuses. You can just bring it.
I like that you knew it was me.
I know.
دكتور
دينا كانت بتسأل إذا كان العرض ده ممكن يسافر، لأن هو فيه كتير قوي، التكنولوجيا بتاعته عالية جدا، والسات بتاعه كتير السات بتاعه كتير قوي مختلف ومعقد. وكنا بنحاول قبل كده ان هو يجي المهرجان، بس كان صعب علشان طبعا المسرح، ان انت تجهز مسرح بكل الحاجات دي مش سهل. روبان كان بيقول ان هو العروض بتاعتهم معموله علشان تتطوع على حسب المكان اللي هي رايحاه، انها تسافر. الغرض اصلا من المسرح نفسه بتاعهم ان هو يسافر ويلف بلاد كتير. ممكن ما يبقاش معمول بنفس اللي احنا شفناه في الفيديو، بس ممكن يجي ويتغير على حسب المكان اللي هم موجودين فيه. I would love to go on like forever with you guys. Like really, that's so interesting. I didn't imagine it to be like so much excitement and so much like details. And I still have like 5 or like 10 more questions. We can ask that more. Thank you so much. If you like really want to say anything before we go off, that would be so great.
I just want to take a moment to thank you all. Thank everyone at Shakespeare for making this happen. I want to thank everybody who's joining us on Facebook Live and everyone who's watched the production. We look forward to returning to Cairo at some point soon and continuing our work in person. But I'm thrilled for this. And I do want to say that this is, of course, a very complicated moment throughout the world because of the pandemic, and it's a very challenging moment. So these spaces, I think, are really important. And I feel that it is a really important time for us as artists to keep moving forward, to keep having the conversations that we have, and to keep reflecting on what it is to be human at this moment. And so for you all to organize this, for the festival to invite us at this moment, is even more meaningful because it allows all of us to keep moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you so much. روبان كان بيشكر كل الناس اللي اتفرجت على الكول والدسكشن والمناقشه دي، وكان شايف انه خصوصا في الاوقات اللي احنا فيها دي مع الكوفيد 19 ومع كل اللي بيحصل، هو شايف ان احنا محتاجين نستخدم كل الاماكن اللي نقدر ان احنا نفضل نعرض عليها، ونفضل ان احنا نكون موجودين، ونفضل ان احنا نكون مكملين as فنانين وممثلين وارتست وكل حاجه. انتوا تقدروا كمان تشوفوا العرض، هو لسه شغال، هيبقى لغايه بكره على الموقع بتاع المهرجان. تقدروا تبعتوا لهم على الويب سايت بتاعهم، على البيج بتاعتهم، تقدروا تكلموهم، تقدروا تبعتوا لهم، هم بيردوا عادي جدا، والله ناس لطيفه جدا جدا جدا. ما عندهمش اي مشكله بقى، مش هنفضل نسيب ان احنا مش هنرد على الناس خالص. ولو حابين ان انتوا هتشوفوا، غالبا الدسكشن دي هتفضل موجوده على البيج بتاعت شكسبير، تقدروا تشوفوها. و ثانك يو سو ماتش لكل الناس اللي اتفرجت علينا، وبجد ثانك يو ثانك يو ثانك يو سو ماتش.
نتمنى الترجمه
تكون عجبتكم. Translation was so good. Taqwa, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alex, Aisha, and Dennis, Monica, Isabella, Ruban, Kayla, Justin, and Michael. Thank you so much, Theater Me Too people. We love you. We love you. We want you to come back very soon. See you soon. Bye bye.
Thank you.